You can start, sorry.
Sure. A very good morning, everyone. Imagine walking into a store where everything beckons you to explore further. The enticing window display, the thoughtfully arranged shelves, and the play of the light guiding your journey. That's the magic of virtual merchandising. It's the reason why you find yourself drawn to a beautifully staged product, imagining how it fits perfectly into your life. Virtual merchandising turns retail spaces into immersive wonderlands where shopping becomes an adventure. From the latest fashion trends to the newest tech gadgets, each product gets its spotlight. And it's not just about individual items, it's about curating experiences, bringing customers on a journey that makes them feel special and valued. DOMS IIT Kanpur is thrilled to welcome Ms. Radhika Subramanian, the head of channel management, expansions, and operations at Godrej and Boyce, as our guest speaker for the 36th episode of Kaleidoscope to gain more insight on the topic virtual merchandising in retail, importance, and principles. Ms. Radhika is an experienced management professional with a demonstrated history of working in the consumer goods and retail industry. She is skilled in marketing management, e-commerce and marketplace management, business planning and strategy, channel expansion and operations, retail management, customer support, integrated marketing communications, business development, and B2B, B2C sales and management. She holds a PGDBM in marketing from Welingkar Institute of Management and has been awarded as one of the top 100 customer experience leaders in India at the World CX Summit 2022, along with multiple other prestigious awards. Now, without any further delay, I would like to request Ms. Radhika to kindly kickstart the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again to Soham and Ayushi for the very warm welcome and making me very comfortable into addressing all of you. The entire process has been very seamless, right from the time I was approached on LinkedIn and till the time the session is actually happening. So once again, thank you to both of you. And of course, I would really thank the Institute from the bottom of my heart to give me a chance to address the bright young minds. I'm an engineer myself, and after that is when I went on to do my MBA. So I hope I'm able to strike a good balance between the left-brained and the right-brained, young minds whom I'm addressing today. When I was asked by Soham as to ma'am, what kind of topic would you like to address our students? I had kind of gone into a tizzy. I was wondering, what is it that would interest you all? I'm speaking to, bright students from the Department of Management at IIT Kanpur. So I didn't want to kind of, beat you all in your own game in terms of talking stuff which is very highly left-brained. I thought I should strike a balance and take a middle path and touch upon a subject which involves both, which is both art as well as a science. And what better way to do it than speak about a topic or a subject very close to my heart, and that's retail management. And if I dive further, then about visual merchandising. So friends, I'd like to set a context before we begin with what I want to share with you today. So retail, as we know, is always in detail. It's the small things that constitute the wow experiences to the customers across all touch points. And like Ayushi was explaining to you all, we have the 5-stage process when it comes to the customer experience journey. And visual merchandising has a huge role to play as far as the offline retail is concerned. So when I talk about the 5E experience, I'm talking about the entice bit, the enter bit, engage, exit, and extend. So when I say entice, again, that's where the role of visual merchandising, window display constitutes, a huge role, and it is able to kind of get your walk-ins who are just kind of browsing all along to, take a look and walk into your store. And they finally make an entry into your store. And then is when your staff and your products and your merchandise engage and keep the customers engaged and give them a lovely experience. Then is when you convert your walk-ins into your shoppers, and the wow experience should continue even once they leave your store, because most products today have the element of post sales, which is your delivery and installation. So if you ask me, all these things as a brand, you need to have a green tick across these elements so that your customers are wowed and they keep coming back to you and shopping from your brand, both from the online and the offline spaces. So that was a context I wanted to set for all of you. So you must be wondering when you all must have got the the notification that someone from Godrej is going to address you all on visual merchandising. You must be wondering that it is going to be a lot of it's going to be something which is more art based, or it's going to be something which is very light and frothy. But let me tell you that there's a lot of thinking and there's a lot of science that goes beyond behind making visual merchandising work for a brand. And trust me, with my experience, I can tell you that the brands which have got this element of their retailing right have really done wonders. It has not only helped the brands to create a right brand image in the minds of the customers, increase their revenues, because customers are really wowed by the display. Visual merchandising acts as an excellent silent salesman. And in today's times when, all of us have to take a very calibrated approach when we are running showrooms, this plays a very important role in converting, as I say, increasing your conversions as well as increasing your ticket size, right? So I think with this context, let me move ahead. Soham and Ayushi, I hope the video and the sound are okay.
Yes, ma'am, it's perfectly all right. Yeah.
Okay, great. So during our interaction today, friends, I plan to kind of take you all through some of the key points. Namely, I would like to explain what is visual merchandising all about, what is the purpose, what are the numerous benefits of visual merchandising. Then we go on to a little bit of the science aspect of visual merchandising, where I speak to you about the principles that govern visual merchandising. Then to kind of ensure that you have understood the concept right, I will take you all through a guava example. And some of you who then will be joining the organizations and will get an opportunity to work in the retail department, you will come across people who are visual merchandisers, and you will have to help them out with their workflow. And I will also expose you to what constitutes the typical workday or a workflow of a visual merchandiser who works with you in your department, right? So this is what I plan to cover today. I have made an attempt to keep it as short and sweet as possible and as crisp and concise, because the idea is to kind of expose you all to it, and you can't learn this subject without actually getting your hands dirty, by actually going on to the shop floor and working very closely with the team. So as you can see, visual merchandising constitutes of two words. Both are very powerful words as far as retail is concerned. You have visual and you have merchandising. Visual, as we all know, relates to the sense of our sight, and merchandising basically constitutes the activity of promoting your sales of goods, services, especially by how they are presented in your retail outlets. So when you club both the words, it essentially comes down to the display of products which makes them appealing and attractive. So please understand that all this while we may have been exposed to the fact that customer is a king, but trust me, customer is a king, customer is an emperor, and if there's a word more than that, then he or she is that. As people working in retail, our sole aim is to kind of get walk-ins to our store, and by providing all the sales aids to our teams, we make it a point to convert the walk-in into a customer. And visual merchandising is a very powerful tool in the hands of the retailers. So keep these two words in mind, the appealing and the attractive bit. So when you talk about the purpose of visual merchandising, like I mentioned earlier, it is to attract, it is to engage, and it is to motivate the customer towards making that purchase, right? So we all know that we are operating in a hyper competitive world, and each brand is trying to kind of take the wallet share from the customer. So if your brand has to stand out, then you have to ensure that right from the store facade to the display, the window display, to the lighting in the showroom, to the ambience in the showroom, to the way the products are displayed in the showroom, the way your sales staff is turned out, right? The way they are trained, the way they interact with the customer, all these small things have a huge role to play as far as converting that walk-in into a customer is concerned, right? So that was the purpose of visual merchandising. Now, if I were to kind of share with you, what are the benefits, right? So, like I mentioned earlier, it is a silent salesman. Today, we know that with very skewed rent revenue ratios, most brands are trying to look at having the optimum store size. And when you have optimal store size, you cannot have huge manpower in your stores. You have manpower which is ably supported by technology aids. At the same time, visual merchandising has a huge role to play in helping you sell silently. And of course, as a brand, it helps you to reduce your employee cost. I'm sure you would have been exposed to this concept of sales per square feet. So when you have your products, when you have your store which is rightly merchandised, when you have your stores which have products which are rightly visually merchandised, then what happens is it helps you to increase your sales per square feet. So the amount of revenue that you're generating from the saleable area at your store. Very important concept in retail. It helps you to reduce your marketing budget, because if your store is well turned out with the right kind of products to suit your target audience, with the right kind of products to meet the needs of your catchment, and if the store has come up well, then it acts as a a live hoarding for you, or a right marketing tool for you. So again, you don't have to spend more money on adopting other offline and online media. You can use your store as a very attractive marketing tool to pull in your customers. And like I mentioned to you earlier, the entice bit, your store may be in a high street area, your store may be in a mall, it could be a standalone store, so be it. But what happens is that if you are able to merchandise your store well and make it visually appealing, it helps you to convert your passive lookers into active buyers. People will take note, hey, there's something interesting at the store, let me walk in and just take a look. And remember, once the customer walks into your store, then it is in the hands of your sales team to convert him or her into buying something from your store. So visual merchandising helps you to do that. Of course, if done well, it helps to enhance the brand image. And of course, it gives a very positive impression in the minds of the customer about the brand and the business. So these were some of the benefits of visual merchandising. So far, so good, guys. Is the pace fine? Do you want me to slow down or pace up?
No, ma'am, it's fine.
No, ma'am, it's fine.
No, ma'am, it's fine.
Thank you so much.
Fine, ma'am.
Absolutely fine.
Okay. Having set the context, having spoken to you about the benefits and what it is all about, let me now dive into what are the principles of visual merchandising. So essentially, like the 7 colors of the rainbow, we have 7 key principles of visual merchandising. They're all equally important. So it's not that one is more important over the other. All these 7 have to work together, like a well synchronized orchestra to give the right experience to the customer. So let me start by listing each one of them for you. And then we'll kind of go into details, and I will also be giving you examples about each of these principles. So, the key principle of visual merchandising is what is called as vertical display and horizontal display. Then we have an important principle which is called as focal point or pyramiding. Then we have balance or symmetry. We have the concept of color blocking, how colors can be effectively used to create the right experience. Then, of course, we have what is called as storytelling or cross merchandising. Then there's a very key principle called as consistency and repetition. And then, of course, we have what is called as graphics. So these are the 7 key principles as far as visual merchandising is concerned. This is essentially hitting upon the science aspect of visual merchandising. So if we were to talk about the first principle, which is essentially the vertical and the horizontal display. So one thing which is very obvious is from the words, which is vertical and horizontal. So if you look at the image to my left, which essentially talks about the horizontal row display, as you can see that this makes the life of the customers very simple. It makes it easy for them to pick up apparel of their choice, because all the apparels that are meeting a certain color are all folded and displayed together. So in horizontal display, as you can see, you're grouping merchandise which are similar in a row-wise fashion or a horizontal fashion. Likewise, you can relate it to what is called as your vertical display. In case of a vertical display, all the merchandise which are similar are stacked together in a vertical fashion. Remember, at the end of the day, whether it is about horizontal, which is row display, or vertical, which is column display, the idea is to make the customer's life simple, right? You don't want to have a store where the apparel is shabbily kind of placed and customer finds it very difficult to pick the apparel of their choice, because I'm sure they would have a color in their mind and they want to kind of, go and get that apparel as soon as possible and then try it on and then kind of move towards the cash counter. Second most important thing is that it makes the entire display very visually appealing. It's easy on the eye. So when it's easy on the eye, it's easy for the customer to go and pick it up, right? So if I were to talk about vertical display, it's about grouping together of merchandise in a vertical column or display. And when I speak about horizontal, it is placing of the products in a block horizontal manner. Are we clear? Now, you would have observed this when you have gone shopping or when you have gone mall hopping or store hopping. It's kind of used in a very prevalent manner or very common manner across most brands, across most categories. And it also helps you to keep the profitable items at the customer's eye level. It results in better visibility for the customers. And you can kind of give preference to certain products which you want to sell, which helps you to get a higher contribution. Very commonly used in the FMCG industry, very commonly used in the apparel industry, and even in the furniture industry, many brands are using this so that again it makes the customer's life simple, where they can pick up furniture pieces that match with the color combinations at their home, with the wall colors, so on and so forth, right? So very important principle, very simple one though, which is your vertical and horizontal display. Moving on, the next concept that or the next principle of visual merchandising that we will be taking a look is what is called as focal point or pyramiding. So I'm sure that you all know what the concept of a pyramid is, right? So we are taking inspiration from the pyramid structure and trying to implement that in our display. So pyramiding essentially constitutes what is called as a triangular display of the merchandise. You want to again kind of make it easy on the eye. You want to make it easy for the customer. So you place the heaviest or the largest item, at the center, and you have the smaller items or the lighter items that are flowing towards the outside. So you're kind of making a step down approach. So the heaviest item at the center and then kind of moving it down. What essentially happens is that this helps you to make the display interesting. It helps you to kind of cut the flat aspect of the display, which kind of can become an eyesore or can become quite boring. Because what happens is that then the customer is not kind of looking at one particular object that you want to promote. Everything is at the same level. You as a retailer or as a brand are not able to showcase that one hero product that you want to promote and sell. But what happens is that with this tumble down approach, what happens is that it becomes easy for the customers to focus their eye on the heaviest or the largest items and very seamlessly kind of move down towards the other items. Again, very commonly used in the home decor industry, in the FMCG industry, so on and so forth. Moving on to the third example, or the third principle is what is called as the balance approach or the symmetry approach, right? So I don't know how many of you all believe in the concept of numerology. I am a passive believer. I'm not too much into it, but these days you see a lot of posts and stories on numerology on your feeds. So as far as retail is concerned, also there are certain lucky numbers, so to say, or there are certain numbers that surely work. And one such is the rule of 3 that works for all your product displays. What you see over here on your screens is a display that you would have encountered in most of your apparel stores, and this is essentially from Fab India, if I can recollect. So you can see 3 mannequins which are displayed, but they're displayed in a very interesting fashion, right? Now, what's with this? So there are 2-3 things that you need to keep in mind when you observe this kind of a display. One is the brand has attempted to use the rule of 3. They have used 3 mannequins. If you notice, again, there's a triangle kind of a setup that has been done. You have one mannequin which is at a slighter height as compared to the other 2. The concept of balance or symmetry is also applied. You can see on either side of the center mannequin, there is one mannequin kept, right? So it is again easy on the eye. It is symmetrical. At the same time, you are kind of breaking the monotony by bringing in some level of heightened display. Please understand that there is nothing wrong or right as far as symmetry is concerned. There could be some categories in which asymmetry may also work and it can catch the customer's eye. The idea is that these are the principles. You need to apply it in your sector or your area and see what works and what doesn't work, right? So you can use this for displaying things like something which is low on value, mid on value, and high on value. You can use this to display products which are short, medium, tall. So you can kind of use this kind of a principle to display and showcase your range to the customers, right? So he or she then kind of can make a choice. They're able to understand, yes, in this particular category, I can kind of get this kind of a basket from this particular brand. So far, so good, guys. We are clear about horizontal, vertical display. We are clear about balance symmetry. We are clear about pyramiding.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Then
Yes,
with your
ma'am.
permission, I move ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let me kind of ask you a question. Today is Saturday. Say today evening or tomorrow morning, after a lazy breakfast, and assuming that you don't have some lectures, some of you decide to go shopping. And when you go shopping, you'll come across this kind of a window display. So if you were to look at this kind of window display, can some of you tell me what are the thoughts that come into your mind? Trust me, the answer is not here. So if some of you are trying to very quickly skim through the slide, will not get it here. I want to understand when a brand is trying to project a window display like this to the walk-ins or the browsers, what are the thoughts that come to your mind? Go for it, guys.
Ma'am, I can see a dull colors only.
Can you be a little louder, my
It's
dear
not
friend?
quite fascinating to me. Ma'am, I am just seeing dull colors only. That it's not quite colorful. These are all in the same shade and are dull.
Okay. Somebody else?
Ma'am, when can I speak?
Main.
So when I see something like this, the first thought that comes to my mind is how would I look in these outfits?
Okay.
From what the mannequins are, I see like most of the clothes in here are women oriented.
Okay.
I can also
one
see
thought
that
of
this can
mine.
somehow represent a summer collection or maybe a spring collection for people who love minimal stuff.
I think
Interesting.
for me it's look pretty regular. I think it's like every other store we see out there, so it's pretty regular for me.
Ma'am,
It looks like a, excuse me, ma'am. It looks like a collection that represents like the blue color, like the blue summer that someone else just now said. It looks like a blue summer collection, which like mainly the theme color is blue, and these are the patterns. Like these particular patterns represent this entire collection. So it's like a fresh arrival. So they put it out on like the display as far as many people can see it.
I think
Please
with me to
unmute
look or
yourself.
not.
Himanshu, please unmute yourself.
I feel it's very experimental, a bold move, and the design is very posh, which they're trying to put into people's mind perspective, a different perspective altogether.
Thank you so much, all of you, to share with me what this image, what kind of thoughts this image triggered in your heads. And I'm really glad that you all participated very enthusiastically. So you all would have just realized that just see that a brand has just showcased you a visual, and look at the amount of thoughts that it has triggered in all your minds. And each one of you has come up with a very unique answer as to what resonates with you when you look at a visual or a window display like this. So have you seen now the power of window display? Have you now seen the power of visual merchandising? The brand had to just put out this visual, and look at the amount of thoughts it has, kind of garnered across all the browsers that have walked past this window. Yes, so I think all your answers put together have constituted what I wanted to share with all of you. So when a brand is doing a window display like this, there are some things that it wants to convey to its customers or potential customers, so to say. One thing is very clear that you must be aware in the apparel industry, we have two seasons, which is what is called as spring, summer, and autumn, winter. So very obviously, this collection is depicting the spring, summer collection. Like Ayushi mentioned, it's about minimalism. It's about something which is light and breezy. Colors are very soothing. You have your whites and blues and pastels that are easy on the eye, that are easy on the body during the harsh summers, right? Somebody rightly mentioned it looks like a women's apparel store. Yes, because most of your mannequins are females. So again, that's a very strong message. The brand nowhere mentioned, or the window nowhere talks about, exclusively women, blah, blah. But by looking at this window, you have kind of got that message. It's a brand which is very today. It's very contemporary, right? And it is kind of trying to hammer into the customers' heads. Hey, friends, it's summer. Go for these whites and blues. Go for the pastel shades. Go for colors which are easy breezy, and go for short dresses, because that's what will help you to beat the summer in a cool manner, right? And it is kind of through the use of the colors and the patterns and cuts in a repetitive manner, it's trying to hammer this point again and again and again. So you know that if you have to shop, these are the colors which are of the season, and you must kind of shop along these lines. So have you just realized how powerful this window display has been? Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am,
Yes,
definitely.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So from today onwards, when you all go out shopping, I hope I have in some way managed to kind of convince you to take a look or kind of pay a little more attention to the efforts the brands put in to kind of convey a very strong message to their consumers, right? So this principle, coming back, is what is called as consistency and repetition. It is about collating the similar objects together. Here the brands try to keep items which have coordinated colors, patterns, textures, all grouped together, and they try to create an overall look. Like you all mentioned with your responses, you would know that it's a very powerful form of display. It creates a lot of punch. It's kind of hammering onto your heads again and again. A display like this also shows that the brand has a lot of depth and width in this kind of merchandise, in this kind of colors. Again, as you can see, it's very interesting to see this kind of display. It's very boring to again see those clothes hung on a hanger, or put on those typical fixtures or gondolas. If you have a display like this, it's very interesting. One more friend of mine mentioned that he or she could visualize themselves in this apparel. Very interesting. Yes, as humans, we are gifted with the power of imagination, and that's what brands want to tickle. And yes, they have managed to do that. And what happens is that as brands, when we are looking at stores, we also try to see if we can get a good glass facade, a running glass facade, and we're able to utilize it for creating the right window display for our customers. Moving on, we come on to the next concept of visual merchandising, which is about storytelling, or what is also called as cross merchandising. Here again, I would like to pause and ask you that if you were to see a display like this at any of the stores that you walk in for shopping, what all are the thoughts that come into your mind? Go for it, guys.
That how good it will look in my room.
Regarding the
Can we have one person speaking at a time? I'm not able to understand otherwise.
can I speak?
Sure.
Yeah, so ma'am, brand is trying to convey overall look of the room or any particular setup inside, including the interior and including the
Okay. Next person.
Ma'am, this room kind of shows like vintage with a modernism. Like there's a dream, like a person is chasing his dreams, and the vintage look like the horns in the left.
Okay. Somebody else wants to make an attempt?
Ma'am, I want to make a point. I'm Vijay Kumar. So, hello. The thing
Yeah.
I personally think the brand is trying to target the consumers by displaying all of its products, like whatever it can, whatever it is, whatever the products that are they are into producing, they just market it here. Like maybe it could be the mattress, blankets, or the table furniture. They are just trying to pose themselves as trying to create their own personality by displaying all their products that they are
Good attempt. Good attempt. Yes.
Thank you.
Ma'am,
I feel
check,
I feel it's a storytelling concept where they're trying to put up a theme-based design, overall design of and it tickles our imagination of how we can design our spaces.
Okay. So good attempt again by all of you. I think if I were to club all your answers or collate all your answers put together, I think the point is well conveyed. So friends, gone are the days that when you walk into a furniture store, you can display, beds or any of the furniture items which are not propped. Those days are over. Today, it is all about creating the right experience and the right ambience for your customers. As brands, it is our job to make the customers imagine how their home would look or how their space would look if they were to buy the products. What's also important is that as a brand, we also try and tell a story because we know that stories can never go wrong. And in this particular display, the visual merchandiser and the brand team or the product team has tried to convey a theme which is very earthy. So as you can see, the tones used are browns, shades of brown, warm colors. And you can see that on the walls, they have gone in for a color which displays greenery, something for someone who's very outdoorish, somebody who's on the hunt. So you can see the, horns of the antelope. What you can also see is the flooring which has been used again is very rugged, is very earthy. And the mirror, so to say, or the heart-shaped object which has been created is of all the photos of that particular person, during his or her various expeditions. So this room is trying to kind of convey that it will be apt for someone who's very fond of outdoors, who's very fond of being in nature, being in wildlife, so on and so forth, right? So you've seen that how by just using the right color and the type of furnishings, you have completely elevated the furniture buying experience. That is number one. Number two, with this kind of display, as someone rightly pointed out, the brand is able to showcase to the customers that, hey, I am not only selling bed, but I'm also selling mattress. I'm also selling bed sheets. I'm selling cushions, pillows, blanket. I'm selling artifacts or decor products that can go onto your wall, so on and so forth. So it's a combo of both storytelling as well as cross merchandising. Are we all understanding, my dear friends?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So simple display, but again, conveying a lot of meaning to the customers. So cross merchandising in retailing is about displaying or marketing products from different categories, but when they're all used together, it creates one whole story. The advantages of using this principle is it helps you to generate additional revenue. Today, time is a new currency. People don't want to waste time after buying a bed. I buy a mattress, I go and hunt for a bed sheet, so on and so forth. If a brand is kind of spoon feeding its customers by creating a whole look, by creating a whole ambience, today customers will say, hey, I'll go for this bedroom package. You have saved a lot of my time and effort and energy in going and hunting for, similar products. I'm really loving this concept. I'm loving this idea. I want the same thing to be duplicated in my bedroom, and I will buy the entire package as it is. So have you just seen that a brand which would have only earned revenue by selling one bed today has increased its revenue manifold by just stitching all these items together and creating one strong, visually appealing display. Got it? And from a customer's point of view, you have made his or her life simple. You have kind of brought out all the things together on one palette, and he or she has just gone for it. Most brands today across sectors are using this very effectively, a combination of storytelling and cross merchandising. Are we all clear, my dear friends? Can I proceed?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Sure.
Okay. Then today when I was just trying to see if my laptop is compatible and the camera and the microphone are compatible, Soham mentioned to me that, you all were also very interested as to how colors go into visual merchandising. So in visual merchandising, we also use a technique called color blocking or color theory, as we say. So colors, I'm sure we all know, are having a huge impact on our moods. While I'm not here to kind of teach you color theory and the science and art of colors, I am only trying to explain to you all that how the visual merchandisers are inspired, or they take the science aspect of the color theory and apply it for displaying of the products. So color blocking is the approach where we use colors to basically support the merchandising of the products or services. It's been observed that colors impact the mood or the psychology of the customers, and if the right colors are used, you can motivate the customers to spend more time at your store. And if they spend more time at your store, the chances of them making a large amount of purchase or high amount of purchase is that much more higher. So let me give you an example where color blocking has been used. I'm sure you all would have seen the display at some of the showrooms at and how in a very soothing and aesthetic fashion the bags have been displayed. This has become possible. This has become possible because a visual merchandiser has applied color theory, right? When you skim through the various shelves or the aisles of this particular able to repeat both of a combination of color blocking and vertical display, right? On the right is a picture from a paint showroom. Again, paint industry is also trying to become more B2C than B2B, and they want the customers to walk into their experience centers, interact with the various colors, shades, tints, so to say, and then kind of make a choice of the right color for their home. So it's become a very consultative selling approach that has been adopted by all these paint companies, all the big names in this industry. So you can see that by using color blocking, you're making it easy and soothing for the customers. You're not obstructing their eye movement. It's not becoming difficult for them. You're not irritating them. It's very visually appealing. And this kind of color blocking technique can be applied in both your window display as well as inside your showroom. Fine. Now we move on to a concept which is graphics. Today, brands are using both static graphics as well as dynamic graphics. Again, it varies from brand to brand, and while it works for some, while static works for some, dynamic works for the others, or you can also use a combination. Again, very commonly used. It began abroad, and now of course most brands in the Indian stores are also adopting to this approach. So they kind of create or they display graphics indicating their mood shots or showing their merchandise, showing their products on the glass windows. So again, a very effective tool for promoting sales, for informing customers about any of the new launches, the apparel of the season or the merchandise of the season. As brands, you can showcase a lot of your mood shots. You can kind of have your dynamic displays when you are running videos. And at the same time, you are entertaining the customer. Somebody who's walking past may want to spend a few seconds looking at it, and if it's enticing enough, then walk into your store, right? So this is the important principle which is of graphics as far as visual merchandising is concerned. Very commonly used by Body Shop. You must have seen that. Again, you can create interesting graphics like you can see on the right, where you're trying to arrest the customer's attention. So very quickly, friends, we have come to the end of the principles of visual merchandising. I am re-summarizing it for all of you so that, as I said, my aim is that today onwards, when you go out shopping, you're able to appreciate the thought process and the pains and efforts taken by the retail brands to make your shopping experience wow. So it's not any random display of products. A lot of science and thought process goes into it. So quick summary, we spoke about vertical and horizontal concept. We spoke about focal point, pyramiding. We saw the balance and symmetry concept. We saw color blocking. We saw storytelling, cross merchandising, consistency and repetition. And finally, of course, was graphics. I hope that all the 7 principles have been explained to you and you will have been able to absorb it. Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thanks for the validation, friends. So now I'm going to kind of, do a small quiz with you to make it interesting. I know it's a Saturday morning. The weekend is almost there in your case. So I thought I will not bore you all with too much of Gyan. I'll try and keep it easy for you and fun also. So my dear friends, that I'm kind of giving you a visual. Say suppose you walk into a store and this is the kind of visual that you see. Now can you relate to me the principles of visual merchandising that have been applied here?
Focal points.
Where?
Yeah, pyramiding. As well as you can see, like the mannequin is above, like on the height, and the one is sitting on the lower side of the floor itself.
And color in the
There is color blocking in the shoes.
Color blocking is also there.
In shoes, right?
shoe section.
They have like the
Horizontal and vertical also we can see in the shoes.
Yeah.
Great.
And
What
behind
else?
We can
also
view the various
vertical.
graphics that are also displayed over there.
Yes.
Storytelling is also there, like
Correct. What
Ma'am,
else?
even
kind of
small things like furnitures which are not there for sale, they are very they're put up in colors which go with the theme of the retail space.
Absolutely. What else? Which
Ma'am,
other principle has been applied?
the entire store has been like given a look, like you can see there's graffiti on the wall. It's been given a very young vibe kind of thing where you feel it's a sporty and young kind of brand. So it's that target audience they are trying to like hook up.
Very nice.
the wall graphic, something like a couple going for a walk or something like that for running.
Good. Great. I think I'm so glad that you guys have made my Saturday worthwhile. I think the last few minutes that we have interacted with each other has been totally worthwhile. And I'm so glad that when I show this visual to all of you and you all were able to kind of throw the principles at me, I'm really very happy, friends. So yes, like you mentioned, graphics principle has been used. Yes, color blocking, horizontal display, symmetrical display, pyramid display, repetitive display, cross merchandising. So you can see that all that we learned in the last few minutes have now been actually put to practice, and I'm glad that you all have absorbed these concepts well. So next time when you go, you'll be able to relate, yeah, hey, we have used vertical, horizontal has been used, and so on and so forth. Very, very nice. So very quickly summarizing again. So now is when we kind of move on to, as they call in visual merchandising, the guava example. So can somebody tell me what is the shape and color of this guava that you see on the screen?
Slightly elliptical and
probably geoid shape and light in color.
Okay, so it's been observed that 90%, 92% of the people say it's green and brown, but actually it's not green and brown, because as you can see, it's actually not the typical green and brown. Every guava has a texture, has a different shape, feel, and color patterns, graininess to it. So like we saw, a guava has a texture, it has a particular look, it has a particular feel to it. Some guavas, if they're overripe, are squishy, some are hard. It is a very unique shape. You can't bracket the shape into any one particular bucket. Every guava is unique in its taste, right? So, and the color, of course, it has got ranging from a light yellow to a light green to some aspects dark green. Some guavas inside are white, some are pink, so on and so forth, right? So, very difficult to slot a guava into one particular shape, color, so on and so forth. Now you saw about a guava. If I were to kind of tell you that guys, you have to sell a guava, how would you display it? Typically, see even in an Indian market, across the fruit stalls, unorganized, all the guavas will be dumped and clubbed together. There'll be no pricing. You'll have to ask, "Bhaiya, iska kitna diya?" No free tasting. Very important. Like we know in India, if you have pani puri or chaat, ek suka puri to banta hi hai. But in this particular case, there is no free tasting. You don't know the guavas that you will buy and go, how will they taste? Will it kind of lead to screaming and shouting by your moms? Absolutely no brief. I don't know where these guavas have come from. What are these type of guavas? No idea at all. It's a blind buy. Not at all self-explanatory. You would have to employ manpower to sell these guavas for you if you were a shop owner. And most importantly, it is consuming a lot of the buyers and the sellers' time. So everywhere it's a no, 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 no. This is absolutely the wrong way of selling something as simple as a guava. Right? You would all agree?
Yes, ma'am.
But if you were to apply the principles of visual merchandising that we studied today and then kind of attempt to sell a guava, there are some things that you will do to ensure that the display of the guava is enticing for the customer and he or she is able to buy it. So a display like this is a wow, right? Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What we have done, we have created a platform, we have created a backdrop. We have created a focal point, the half-cut guava. It draws the customer's attention to it to know that are the guavas fresh, are they ripe, raw, so on and so forth. We have created wobblers where we speak about, something like a drink, taste, so on and so forth. Then, of course, we have mentioned the pricing, so you don't have to ask your bhaiya ki kitne ka diya. So are you able to appreciate the fact, friends, a small attempt in bringing about a change in display will kind of help you so much in generating revenue for something as simple as a sale of a fruit like a guava. So it creates a professional look for selling. It's self-explanatory. It saves a lot of time for both the buyer and the seller. It gives you a lovely customer experience. Just imagine when you go shopping for fruits and you see this kind of display, I'm sure you would end up buying and coming back home. As a brand, it helps you to differentiate from your competitors. And it tempts the customer to give a look. Even if you're not in the mood to buy a guava, by seeing this kind of display, you would go to kind of taste it or maybe want to just ask or help yourself to a small portion of the drink, so on and so forth. Right? And obviously, as a brand, it helps you to increase the sale because you have done something which others haven't even attempted. So you have seen how the principles of visual merchandising have been applied to something as simple as sales of a guava. I now come to the last part of my presentation, which talks about the typical workflow. A typical activity which a visual merchandiser does when he or she is setting up a store along with the retail executive. Soham and Ayushi, I hope I'm good on time.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. Absolutely, ma'am.
Okay. So these are some of the workflow steps that a visual merchandiser follows when he or she is setting up a store. So most brands will go in for spaces which are bare shells. There are only walls and the flooring also is uneven. So it starts with the activity of space planning. How do you plan to convert this space into a store? Then planogramming. Planogramming essentially involves setting up the layout of the store. Lighting plays a very important role in retail to create the right ambience. Propping or accessorizing the products, creating a nice window display and signage. So these are some of the aspects that a visual merchandiser has to look into. Let's go into each one of them in detail. So when you're talking about something as space planning, the visual merchandiser has to work on the architecture. They have to keep in mind in what kind of a building is the store going to be housed. How will the frontage look? How will the entrance look? How is the exterior facade going to look? As brands, we need to be responsible and we need to ensure that we cater to the health and safety of our internal customers as well as our external customers. They have to study the location in which the store is coming up. Is there ample space for parking? How is the access to the store? right? And then of course, does the store have a theme? Who's the target customer? Who are the potential customers? And how am I going to kind of bring about a merchandise mix that suits with the catchment area? Then every store will have what is called as a back office or a back room area, which could be for keeping your stocks, which could be the area for your staff for recreation. You have your offices and other functional space, the employee break room, store offices, restrooms. Then you have your aisles, the service areas, non-selling areas, and then you have your merchandise space. So essentially your areas like back room, offices, aisles, these are the non-selling areas. You cannot sell from here. So what essentially matters is, as a visual merchandiser, how can I increase a saleable area as compared to the non-saleable area? Right? Then you, as I said, you need to compartmentalize it into selling area, storage space, personal space, and customer space. Again, becomes very important. So right from your check-in, checkouts, your entrance areas, your work areas, your display areas, your common rooms, your washrooms, your pantry areas, so on and so forth. Then of course comes up what is called as your planogram, or making the layout of the store on paper. And then you can even kind of do it on various tools which are used by visual merchandisers. Various softwares are available which they use. So you can follow a loop layout where it becomes easy for the customers for navigating through the store. You can also create, if you're in the business of say furniture, you can also create a mock-up flat concept. You can create room looks, and then the customer can purchase the room itself, like we saw in the example of storytelling and cross merchandising. You can work on your hot zones, cold zones, create promo zones for your customers to understand, which products have been newly launched or which products are having a good offer on them. Working on the flooring, ceiling, lighting, partitions, all ceilings, so on and so forth. So these constitute some of what is called as your planogramming aspect of a visual merchandiser. Right? So this is how typically a planogram looks when it's made on the software. I'm sure that some of you would have seen some planogram in your life. Then of course, lighting is very important as far as retail is concerned. And you have to use the right kind of lighting for the right kind of retail space. So you can't have a bar lighting in a grocery store, and you cannot have a grocery shop lighting in a bar. Both of them are retail points of different natures, and they try to create a different mood or ambience. And in both the places, light has a huge role to play in creating the right ambience for its customers. So light helps you to set the mood. As a brand, you can use your warm yellow lights, you can use white lights, you can use a combo. You don't have to be afraid of the dark. There could be some nooks and corners in your showroom where you want to kind of, create a particular ambience. You may want to put spots on certain products. You may want to use track lights in certain sections of the showroom. You also want to use lighting to show off your products, to show off your merchandise to the customers. So light has a huge role to play as far as retail store setup is concerned. You can see some examples here, how the right lighting creates the right ambience and makes the shopping experience lovely for the customers. And of course, we have this principle or the concept of propping that is used by visual merchandisers. So let me give you an example. As you can see here, how in the first image, they have tried to create a living room setup where you have a single seater sofa which is slightly high raised, and then you have propped it up with the cushions. You have the right lights. You have a coffee table on which you have displayed your crockery, lamps, so on and so forth. You try to create an ambience. Look at the kind of displays on the remaining images. This is what you will see in typical home decor stores. Again, very attractively placed, and related products are grouped together, so it makes life simple for the customer to shop. Then of course, window display we have seen. We know what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages of window display. So like we saw in the consistency and repetition, and even here now, again, a window display has a huge message to convey to its customers. Some more examples of window display, which are very enticing, and wants you as customers to walk into the store to see what's going on. And of course, signage is extremely important in a store. You have to kind of use the right signages to communicate the right messages to the customer, right? You want signages to be informative. So you can have signages which talk about your brand guidelines or your brand taglines. You have signages which are hanging, which can talk about a sale or an offer that is going on. You can have signages, to indicate the washroom areas, so on and so forth. So these are the ample opportunities where a brand can use signage very effectively to communicate with their customers. So summarizing the workflow of a visual merchandiser, you have space planning, which we saw. We saw planogramming or creating the layout, lighting and the crucial role it plays in creating the right ambience at the store, propping or accessorizing. Gone are the days when you can display products as it is. They have to be suitably propped to create a story or a visual. We have seen about window display. And then, of course, we have concluded the workflow with the signage, both internal signages and external signages. So I would like to conclude my session today by saying that visual merchandising, or VM, as which is the acronym we use internally, is an indispensable retail discipline. It consists of a series of practical selling tools that are used to influence what and how much consumers buy. Very powerful tool in the hands of the retailers. So with that, friends, I come to an end of what I wanted to share with you. I hope my session has been a good thought starter for all of you to start thinking about this very powerful tool in retail. Be it as customers or be it as retail managers, in case you'll join any of the retail brands post your course, and you'll have been able to appreciate both the science as well as the art aspect of retailing. Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Thanks a lot, ma'am, for the insightful PPT. Now, I request all of you, if you have any questions that hasn't already been answered in the PPT, kindly raise your hand. We are open for question and answers. Yes, Shambhavi, you can go ahead with your question. Shambhavi, you can unmute and ask your question.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Shambhavi.
Thank you for such an insightful information. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The visual merchandising concept, as far as I know and I understand, is largely based on consumer choices. Could you please explain in brief how to gather the data and what are the various ways being followed to gather the data to arrive at the appropriate planograms?
To arrive at the appropriate?
Planograms.
Planograms. Okay. So, as far as a visual merchandiser goes, there are certain hygiene elements that you follow when you're creating a planogram. What is also important is that as brands, the team that works on the retail fit outs doesn't go blind and just open a store. Every brand would have created a retail design framework, which it would have brainstormed about, because it wants to kind of maximize the space that it has allocated to the store. So when you're designing a store, you keep in mind all the aspects that are win-win for both the brand as well as the consumer. And basis that is when the broad retail design of a store is conceptualized. And then is when the visual merchandiser comes in, and keeping the brand guidelines, the brand manual is in mind, is how he or she then integrates all the elements into making the store. When we as brands are coming up with a retail design, we have brainstormed after a lot of research by visiting stores, by applying our ideas on how we want to display our merchandise, and those briefs are given to the visual merchandiser, and then is when he or she comes up with solutions to showcase our merchandise in that retail space.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Dhruv, you can unmute and ask your question.
Hi, ma'am. Thank you for the session. Could you elaborate how do you align visual merchandising strategies with the brand positioning, especially in today's case, especially at retail locations, because most of the people go into retail locations and prefer to try the product and then buy it online. So how do you how are these strategies used to convert those people to buy from the store?
Okay, so that was Dhruv, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So Dhruv, when the pandemic struck, people had kind of written off offline retail, and the brands who were online were in a safe space, and the offline only guys had to switch to online very soon. But you will be surprised, and there is a lot of research that has gone into it, that it is not anymore online versus offline. It is online marrying very seamlessly into offline. So both these channels are here to stay. We are living in an age which is phygital. We still have customers who do both showrooming and web rooming. They will walk into a store, touch and feel the products, and then end up buying it online. You also have a lot of customers who browse your products online, but who want to come to the store, get the physical experience, try it on, touch and feel, and then make the purchase. So as a brand, we need to be kind of available to the customer when he or she wants it. So, it's not one versus the other. It is one and the other, giving a seamless and a unified experience to the customers.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Akash, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Ma'am, as we all know that there are various market typologies like informal markets, formal markets, shopping centers, community centers, streets, street shoppings and all. So how does all these market typologies have an impact in visual merchandising design decisions, ma'am? Do they have impact on store layouts, or how one will put up the front spaces and all?
Okay, so Akash, you will be surprised that even a vegetable vendor uses whatever knowledge he has of visual merchandising when he's selling his merchandise. So you must have seen people who sell the leafy vegetables, right? Before selling it, they will kind of put it in a pool of water, get it cleaned, and sprinkle some water on it to make it appear fresh. They will display the leafy vegetables of one kind together. Likewise, if you were to go to your mithai walas or your sweet shops, the way they have their glass windows, and where they very attractively keep all these sweetmeats, and they also kind of give you free trial and tasting. So, my dear Akash, visual merchandising can start at any level, and you have seen all these small unorganized players implementing it in their own way. It may not be very fancy, and it may not have all your jargons, but we as mature retailers or brands have kind of some way or the other taken cues from them, then of course applied our knowledge, and then implementing it in the various formats that we operate in. But just to summarize to what you asked, yes, visual merchandising can be applied across all formats. It can be applied across all markets. It can be applied across all typologies. It's here to stay. You cannot ignore it.
Thank you.
Urvi, you can ask your question.
Good morning, ma'am. Firstly, I wanted to understand, how does retailers measure the effectiveness of this visual merchandising initiatives? Like, are there like specific metrics or some tools by which we can get to know that is the customer satisfied with this particular visual display, or is it actually translating into sales?
Thank you, Urvi, for asking me this question. Yes, as far as retail is concerned, there are a lot of what you say KPIs or key performance indicators that we keep in mind, or matrices that we keep in mind. Let me share some of it with you, which is related to to the question that you have asked. So one is, of course, we have the broad triangle of retail, which is walk-ins, conversions, and ATV, or the ticket value. Walk-ins, conversions, and the ATV, or the average ticket value, so on and so to say. Walk-ins, as we know, are the people who, other footfalls who walk into the store. Conversions is how many of those footfalls have actually converted and bought something from you. And ATV, or the average ticket value, is the average basket size of the customers who shop from you. Having said this, when you visually merchandise a store, what happens is that we as retailers also calculate what is called as sales per square feet. So the revenue that your store has generated divided by the saleable area of your store, that kind of gives you an index of what's your sales per square feet. You also can keep a, when you divide your store into various zones, your warm zone and cold zone and all, so to say, the basis the way you merchandise your products, at the end of every day or at the end of every week, depending on the frequency in which your brand does reviews, you come to know what SKUs are sold. And you will see that there is a huge jump or an increase in the sale of those SKUs which have been very well merchandised either on mannequins or on any of the gondolas as compared to the ones who have not been so well merchandised. So yes, as retailers, of course, we have a lot of qualitative and quantitative measuring criteria to understand how has VM helped the brands.
Thank you, ma'am.
We'll take the last question from Sunandan. Please go ahead with your question.
Thank you for the opportunity. Ma'am, we had a visual in which we saw a arranged bedroom, and the description was the bed was the main item, and it had some supporting furniture. But in real life, what we have seen, like even my mother, like they'll be selecting the items which will be costing less. Like for example, they'll go for the sheets, then go for the show pieces on the table, or maybe the chair, or maybe the table. Like even if the products are all assorted, the music is good, the temperature is well set, and the ambience is good. Won't the pricing of the product impact all these efforts? Like where does pricing stand in the priority queue of visual merchandising?
Thank you so much, Sunandan, for asking me this question. So, if you had observed the slides that I had shared, I had said that visual merchandising also helps you to display the products across various price points. So, the very common pricing technique which we apply when we are visually merchandising at the stores is what is called as your good, better, best. Right? This is done by most intelligent retailers across the world, where you display products of the similar category, but you kind of show a slightly lower priced item, a mid-range item, and a very high value item. It's a kind of way in which you kind of then entice the customers to move from the lower range to the mid-range. You are sometimes very successful in transitioning the customer right from low to very high, but in 70-80% of the chances you would have converted a low customer who would have otherwise gone into a low range merchandise into a mid-range merchandise. Most important thing we need to understand, Sunandan, is that, like you rightly mentioned, your mom would have picked up what she saw on display, right? That's because that has caught her fancy. If these products were not displayed the way they were, they would be lying on some, shelf or an aisle on a gondola, and it would have missed her eye. But the fact that the brand or the retailer took the pains to kind of create a story or display it in a way that catches her fancy has kind of worked for me. So for us as retailers, it doesn't matter the type of shopping that the customer is doing, in the sense whether he's buying one candle or he's buying one bed. Of course, our aspiration is to have the highest ticket size of the basket size, but that does not mean that all my efforts are only oriented towards selling very high ticket value items. I try to create those ranges which fit with every person's budget. So even in a particular budget, I have got 3-4 options. Like say, suppose, tomorrow you were to go to buy a bed. I cannot keep only all expensive beds, right, in my showroom. I have to show you a range. So if your budget is in the range, say 35,000 to 50,000, I have to give you at least 3-4 options in your budget range for you to then arrive at a decision along with your family, right?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, everyone, for your questions. Now, just a quick request from everyone. If some of you will turn on your cameras, we'll just quickly take a screenshot of the meeting to be posted on social media. Just some of you. So, you can take the screenshot.
Right, just a minute.
Yeah, and let me know when it's done. We'll summarize the session then.
My cheeks are hurting.
Sorry, ma'am, just a minute. Give me a minute. It's done,
I'm
ma'am.
assuming it's done. I'm assuming it's done.
It's done, ma'am.
All right, great. I'll summarize the session now. Thank you, everyone. Today's session has been exceptionally enriching, leaving us with plethora of valuable takeaways to enhance our understanding of the world of visual merchandising in retail. Ms. Radhika commenced the session by illustrating visual merchandising as a silent salesman. Subsequently, we delved into the 7 fundamental principles of visual merchandising. We also discussed in detail how visual merchandising employs the principles of consistency, repetition, cross-merchandising, storytelling, and color theory to create a cohesive and enthralling shopping environment, ultimately influencing customer behavior and increasing sales. By using the guava example, we gained a deeper understanding of the 7 principles of visual merchandising. The session was concluded by discussing the workflow of visual merchandising, followed by an interactive Q&A session. Ms. Radhika's expertise has illuminated the art of crafting captivating shopping experiences, blending creativity and strategy seamlessly. As a gesture of gratitude, we have taken the initiative to plant a sapling at Sundarban National Park on behalf of Ms. Radhika. A certificate commemorating this eco-friendly tribute will be presented to her later, symbolizing our commitment to sustainability and environmental consciousness. With this, on behalf of the Alumni and Corporate Relations Committee, MBA IIT Kanpur, I would like to formally conclude the event. Once again, thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you so much, everyone.